being ever get anything. They have their own road. It's the biggest surefire way to get. I mean, that would.
Business.
Yeah,
But I don't think there are many ways to do
I don't believe. So. That's why I say if I can, talk to Tom off. Or we might miss an opportunity. Yeah, thanks. Should be there, and it should have to be on the agenda.
Hi. I have some openings.
Ronnie, we have Ronnie do one. That's a number.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's 6:03. Linda, I see you're on. So we're going to do roll call. Truck Rad Committee. On the committee. I see Dewan. Dewan, can you hear us?
Aye.
Great. I see Ronnie. I do not see Abdus or Linda. Not sure if they're joining. And in the room. With that, the two things I want to talk about tonight, the two main things, and also a presentation by Donna was not the full council when we had our full council meeting a couple of weeks ago. I want to talk about based on discussions at the council. We did a revised draft that I want, rather I revised it and I want the committee to look at this. So if you could pull up the revised draft, Michael. So if you can all see this, what I did. That document. Okay. So to make it really clear that this is not something that will necessarily, you know, when I presented this at the full council, the intent is this in and of itself would not be to trigger a decision. So I modified it to indicate that I'm writing to request information regarding the process for changing access highways within the city of Hudson. And then that we're considering a change. Is considering the two highways that are going to leave the city. In addition, we are also reviewing the I need to a prohibition of 45 feet in the city unless they are making local deliveries. So this is all about local deliveries are not impacted. This is true. The rest of it, next section is unmodified from what we reviewed before. And then rather than request changes, under consideration. And then that we are considering removal of a portion of the, the language on page 28, which it remains unchanged. And then in addition, we are considering a request that trucks over 8 feet be prohibited from entering the city. Changed. And then, information, on the process of making these changes is greatly appreciated, if you have any questions. So this is very, very clear that this is an inquiry into process. So that we can get information to know, what we would need to do, what would our next steps be, if we chose. Very possible that DOT will come back and say, this is something that can possibly be entertained, that's a possibility. But the purpose of this is to make it very, very clear that this is a request for information on process. So I want to ask the committee members, Luan, did you have a chance to take a look at this? Do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Juan, you're muted if you're speaking.
I don't know if you understood that you were asking the question. I actually think that the changes are good because this is Ronnie, by the way. I think you took into consideration some of the issues that the council members were having and the residents were having in our last regular meeting, where they were voicing concern that, we're kind of just, changing everything, which is not what we were doing. So this clears the language up so that we're taking it into consideration. So I appreciate you changing that, Margaret.
The changes, Ronnie, that you would propose?
I'm sorry?
You're breaking up a little bit. Do you have any other changes that you would propose to the letter? If you do,
No, it's look good to me.
Yeah, same as Dewan said. I think the changes that you made are very good. You spelled my first name wrong, but other than that, everything else is good.
Yes.
There's 3 M's in Mohammed, just to be. But other than that, everything's great.
You're both breaking up. Sorry?
Is it thumbs up or changes?
No, I think I'm wondering is that you do not have any other edits that you want to make. If I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
Donna, do you have any edits that you want to make?
No.
Since the members of the committee present are myself, Donna, Ronnie, and we take this back to full council. Oh, Linda has just joined us. Let's wait for Linda's talk. We made all the important. Good. So, I just started with the revised letter. I don't know if you had a chance.
I wrote it.
Okay, great. So the whole point was to make it very clear that this is a request for information on the process. And then once we get that information back, then we can discuss. But at least this is just very clear that we're just asking for information. So did you have any? Thank you for good with it. So what I was proposing was that we take this back to the full council, for them to review, and they will be willing to let us ask the question of DOT, so we can at least get information. Yeah.
How does it significantly change the question?
It significantly changes it because in the letter that had been previously put together, it made a positive statement that we were requesting a change. This letter is not requesting a change. This letter is requesting information regarding the process for doing a change and says that we are considering a change. It doesn't say, we have to look at what the process is first. And then once we have looked at that, then we will come back to the table and say, okay, this is what DOT said. Now, one of the things that was said in the last meeting was that we need to find out what what DOTs, I think Dominic, I believe you're on the call. Dominic indicated that he would like to know what DOT's thoughts would be on this. And so the only way we're going to get an answer from DOT, I've had telephone conversations with them, that's not going to get us anywhere. We have to request information in writing, get it back, and then see what they say. We don't know what they're going to say. Dominic, I don't know if you had a chance to look at this letter.
No, I haven't, but I will tell you that I went back on my information when I had to do my thing with DOT with the speed limit. And this is basically what I kind of started with, was sending DOT scenarios and questions. And one of the things that they did shoot down was changing the speed limit, at the truck route at the time. So that information came out from the initial inquiry of the process too. So, this might definitely be a better direction to kind of see, because they might come out with information that totally stops things in its track, and now you have to regroup the whole thing. So this is definitely probably a better step.
So since you weren't able to see it ahead of time, basically the introductory paragraph, I'm writing to request a change, etc. It says, I am writing to request information regarding the process for changing access highways. The committee is considering a change. So it changes it to a request for information rather than a request for change. That's the bottom line. So
Okay.
I think.
Now this is going to DOT, that's going to DOT, straight to DOT, correct?
If the council approves it,
Okay,
traffic engine coordinator, contact information was given to me by Lee in discussions with him. And the first step is to contact this individual and then on him on what the next steps are, if indeed there are any next steps. So nobody else from the committee has anything they want to say? Okay, so at this point, if we have members of the public, please state your name and your residence and go ahead.
It's Sonia Ogun, 24 Horton Back. I just,
I'm sorry, I want to get the names because Linda may not be able to hear.
Sonia, Sonja, Ogun, O-K-U-N, 24 Worth Avenue. I'm just curious if it's possible that if the request is for information about changing access routes, that it could be a broader request, meaning changing access routes, not just changing one access route. And like there are alternatives presented, and because there are environmental surveys, etc. But I feel like it would be under all access route changes, because these two routes impact the city in profoundly negative ways. So I understand it's still a request for information, but it's still basically saying this is the change that we want to do, as opposed to we want to see what is the process for changing routes, which doesn't preclude change,
So the history of this is that when this started, I had discussions with DOT. The route that comes down Worth, that goes out Fairview or Green Street, connects 9, goes Fairview to US 9, and connects into Worth to US 9. And so they said point blank, you cannot, you have to allow access from US Highway to US Highway. You cannot do that. And as we were researching this, we discovered that the DOT pointed out to me that the 9G piece was put in specifically for that warehouse. But I was categorically that we don't have any control over US 9 on both sides of the city. But that's where that came from. Any other questions from public?
Well, let's see.
Sorry, go ahead. Can you just
This is a
name?
question. Ted Usnap, DEW, SNAP, 26 Worth. There's a letter, 1976, that seems to say that both 9G and Columbia Street were truck routes from then. So it's well before the furniture company. But it was a letter, directive number 3, to all police officers from the Commissioner of Police Quigley.
That's different.
It's a different thing.
That's completely different.
What do you mean it's completely different?
I'm going to.
It says,
I know.
the following streets are designated as truck routes in accordance with sub F of section
I know
115.
exactly what you're like.
Okay.
Okay. So within the city, that's not about access highways. If it's not access highways, that's a different issue. These are the streets upon which trucks were permitted to go, regardless of where they were headed. Those were the streets that were designated. That is not about the access highway connection that was established for 9G, which DOT told me was established in the 1980s. They looked up the data.
Okay.
So that I understand what you're talking about,
Distinction.
and we have actually come up with a department that actually eliminates a lot of the routes that are listed there for trucks to travel on. That is with the police department. I'm waiting for Chief Franklin to review that. Yeah, so I have to name and
Jason Foster from 87 Green Street.
Mhm.
If you'll allow, Margaret, can I try to explain the difference?
But go ahead.
I've done a lot of research into this. It's a difference as a state versus a national issue. The program, it starts at the federal level and is implemented at the state level. Forced on the city. We within the city, we call it the truck route because we define it as trucks go through our city, we want them to take these roads.
Okay.
But the federal government wants to make sure that trucks have routes to go to their Home Depots, their not Home Depots, but their home spot there. And so that's what the program is about. If you research into the access highway program to federal government,
Other questions from the public? Do you have any hands up online? Okay, all right, so the next item that I want to look at.
I have one question.
Oh, sorry.
The letter was tabled, is that correct? The last,
No, it was
First
tabled.
letter.
It wasn't tabled because committee council voted down permission to send it to DOT.
I just
So
want to make
nothing,
sure.
nothing will happen unless we bring it to the council again to get the.
So this is a second attempt for,
It's a different matter.
right, got it. Just want to make sure that one's gone.
It's gone, it's completely done. Thank you.
Maybe you should have some content about speed and speed. A question about that too, or you
Whether,
making it
well,
really
that,
complicated?
it doesn't belong in this letter.
Okay.
That's a different issue. And we are working on reducing the speed citywide. But that has nothing to do with access highways. And that would not go through this process.
Okay.
Any answers?
With the
Sorry, again, Linda takes notes.
Susan Meyer, 36 Fourth Avenue,
Mhm.
with the larger truck component of the letter. I read this earlier today and I wondered why that would seem like that was the one topic that had universal support. So I wondered why the language lessening the saying that you were considering that option as a change. I felt like you might as well in the letter, perhaps go ahead and just ask for a change.
Well, that was what was rejected before.
I don't think that part of it was
Yeah.
rejected in the conversations. I think only.
The 48-foot truck?
Yeah.
Issue?
Yeah. I was
That was my very
it was
question.
pretty universally supported.
I can make that revision.
I'll comment again about my research on the access highway. It's literally written in the program is designed for 53-foot truck. I absolutely agree with you that they should be eliminated. They don't. I think it's gonna be a.
I can work with the language to make it clear that that's not want. But again, we still have to ask for information what the process is to do that. But I'll take that considering and saying that we have decided that we want to eliminate large
Yeah, that's
trucks,
good.
and we want information on how to do that. Other questions? And again, for Linda Naaman.
Sienna Reed, 910 Columbia Street, that's it.
I'm sorry, can I get your name again?
Sienna Reed, it's SIENN. Last name is Reed, REID.
And you're in 900 block of Columbia.
I'm wondering about the analysis of what's happening to telephone poles that are being hacked into by large trucks. And I don't really see anything being done about it, but on our block, I noted about 5 of them. I think it has a direct relationship to the size of the trucks that are coming through. And is frightening to look at, and I'm just as a citizen of the house near big telephone poles. Is there anything being done to address that issue or to even know where damages are taking place?
So I guess, thank you for bringing that up. And we know that the large trucks are causing damage. They are causing damage when they're going around the fireplace. They're causing damage to curbs. There have been a number of cars on Columbia that have been totaled by trucks on Columbia. So we are aware of that. I'm just trying to keep the focus this evening on this agenda item to DOT. And then I want to get to some mitigation ideas that we've got that try to address things beyond this stuff. So, yes, you know, these are all things that are part of the problem that we've got with the large trucks coming through.
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Can you go to the next agenda? There was a form I think. Oh, I remember. After that, 12 of these, I think we have enough to share. Here you go.
Yeah.
You have one, okay? You could share.
Margaret.
Oh, I'm sorry. Friend copies.
Yeah, they come out of grade 4, they just from lines that the whole thing kind of change.
Well, that's for the next slide. Okay. So, looking at a number of different ideas of approaches that we may take to trying to address some of the problems that we're dealing with. Left-hand side goes to this issue of eliminating 9G. Next on that side is the 48-foot truck issue greater than 48. Enforcement would have to come from police department. And then citywide speed limit. So these are 3 things that we're currently working on that we think would help. DPW, the issue, Sarah, that you raised, Ted, I think.
Yeah.
The very first item on that is pursuing the memorandum to the police chief about the truck routes. So that is reference to that memorandum.
Yeah.
Also look at potentially locations where we may need traffic lights for the possibility. And the other concern potentially is 9 Worth and Union. That's not coming off of Union onto Worth. So pay on Worth onto Union, but come off Union, it's a difficult term. That has center lines, as you know, the city does not have center lines. It's very notable on, you know, I think there's a curve on Green Street where this is very notable that it is, but it might also help on Worth. Pedestrian crosswalks, we do not have enough crosswalks on the truck route. This is a big issue in Columbia, as I'm sure you know. Other things we're looking at, I've not done this yet, but meeting with some of the trucking companies to get their perspective. I've been interviews and articles, and they only seem to talk to local delivery drivers. No, that's not what we're dealing with here. It's the bigger companies that we really need to talk to about what it would take to get them, and I think you've done this, yes. To get them to, you know, look at other alternatives. And the other thing, there's a very old weight limit sign at the hospital, which we are looking at changing, talking to DPW about changing. Probably also talking to the hospital before we make any changes of that kind. Currently, the limit is, was it 1.5 tons, which was put up like 40 years ago. So it's about the way. So obviously that we would like to change, but we need to talk to the hospital also about any impact for them. Next level. Phase 2, and this comes to the question that you had raised. Ideally, we would like to get rid of the Route 9. That is going to require Hudson municipalities working with representatives like DDR to come to some agreement as to they are also, we know that in Greenport on 23B, for example, that's a huge problem for them. So I think if we can try to continue to work on fostering cooperation to try to come up with things that are not delivering our immediate municipalities, and that is, you know, bigger lift, but it's something that we've not given up on. I did actually put a call in at Treasurer to talk to her about this, and I want to meet with DPW. One of the issues with regard to the impact of the as they go by is the quality of the road, and that has a direct impact on, you know, how it's shaking and so on. The paving is poor, so that is something where, again, if we could work on improving that, that would also help. So that's a phase 2 issue. Again, as we try to move forward, getting the truck routes out, I know we've had, the second ward has done petitions regarding Lower Columbia because they have significant issues in that area. I am very happy to see so much community interest because we need everyone raising their voices, and so that we can get something to representatives beyond the city that would see that we really have a problem here that we need solved. So that's another area that we're pursuing. So the other item under elimination, pursuing requesting paved bypass, that's similar to those are bigger issues that would need to be worked on with other municipalities. So these are ideas that we have put out there for people to consider. So I'm going to begin with the committee. Linda, any thoughts?
I think, I'm not sure about the paving issue because the weight of the trucks is really what's killing the infrastructure and the houses. So you can pave, but I don't know if that's gonna solve the weight, which does the damage, which shakes. Say, my big, and house, I don't know if that paving really matter. The damage to the sewers, for example, on Columbia, have been repeatedly dug up and, so I'm not convinced about the paving. I mean, I don't think we're gonna get a center line anywhere that works. I think the center line issue is, I don't think it's possible. Crosswalks, I'm all for those, of course. Have a long history of,
I know that.
you know. Yeah, I'm definitely open to painting them if they can't get done. Stoplights, I'm not sure who the jurisdiction is there. Is that's the city or? I look at that one at, by Stewart's, it's massive,
I know, well,
it's like, who did that?
no, we did it,
So the city did it,
yeah, but you have to get DOT involved,
that's right.
and DPW.
EOT in this region, yeah, so it's the same regional, and there Poughkeepsie is who we relate to. Yeah, so anyway,
It's good fish next week.
so that's big, I think that's really complicated stuff, not to say we shouldn't. Speed limit, sure, 20 miles an hour could really help. Or maybe even discourage people from coming through. Even anyway.
I'm fine.
Is there anything you want to add or comment
No,
on? Any comments or thoughts on the ideas that we're coming up with that may mitigate some of our problems? Anything you'd like to add? You muted?
Online, but.
Juan, can you hear us?
Yes,
Okay.
but
Any
sometimes
comments?
it's cut, sometimes it's cutting off, but I could hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we hear you now. If you're talking, we can't hear you anymore. Maybe the weather. There we come there. So we're having trouble hearing you. So Ronnie, what I would like is if you could look at this document and send me comments. Anything that you think is really not feasible or would not make a difference, you can make those comments. Anything that you think we ought to be considering, add that. But we're really having trouble. I haven't still.
yeah, okay, I do have a comment,
Yes,
if that's okay.
yeah, okay, speak up.
Sure, so just Linda's question about the pavement, whether or not it could help. It could be done to improve the pavement, but as part of the key facts document that I put together, I had some information from an article that I researched. Local roads are not built to lower design standards than roadways on higher roadway networks. The difference is how deep the underlayment is and how thick the pavement is built up. Hudson Street can stand large volume of truck traffic. So I'm not sure if a request could be made for the streets that have trucks to
bigger underlayment, help minimize the emissions.
Dominic, if you can hear us, your audio seemed to be better than Juan and Ronnie. Do you have any comments? All right, you had a comment here?
Sure. Hi, Eve Jacques, 910 Columbia Street. My name is spelled Y-V-E-S. Last name J-A-Q-U. J-A-Q-E-S. I'm a data scientist. I work for UNICEF monitoring children's health. I like the idea of better enforcement because where we live, we see widespread violation of the truck route laws. There are giant semis constantly rolling down Columbia Street. We have the pleasure of living at Columbia Street, Prospect and Columbia Turnpike with a crazy intersection. Nobody honks and yells at each other.
Also a hospital district.
So we see heavy violation of the truck routes, and I would like to say, like, as a data scientist who works a lot with remote sensing and earth observation data, there are fairly inexpensive automatic ways to track speed, like vessel length, emissions. And we could, if there's any budget in the department to actually put in some modern devices at critical points, that would be expensive and, make it so that they could actually enforce. Because I don't think it's a small police department. I don't think it's very realistic that they can actively ways to actually collect the data and then see who the violators are.
It is one of the
We could-
biggest
we
police
could do-
departments for.
We can do that for, an investment of probably less than $100,000.
Other comments? For them, did you say your name again?
Yeah, my name is Jennifer Putman, P-U-T-V-I-N. I live at 25 Worth Avenue. So I have two comments. One, I agree with Eves because I was having an anecdotal conversation yesterday with somebody that didn't know I lived on Worth, and he was like, oh, I blow through there all the time in my truck. So there's like literally no enforcement. And then I have a question. Does the city of Hudson have any information about the environmental impact of installing a traffic light? Because I live at the corner of Worth and Union. Interested to know more about, then there's like not very large easements there and there's already a telephone pole that is very much leaning and has more wires than it can handle.
There's
So,
3 by our house that are leaning and they're sawed off at the bottom.
yeah, I mean, they've been replacing them, but I was just wondering for the installation of the traffic light in general and like the clicking noises and, traffic noises, starting and, the starting and stopping of cars and everything like that. Does the city have any information about it?
I do not, it's a good question.
Okay.
And idling, I think that's, we were talking about that. That's a huge buildup of traffic because it's constant and nonstop online, right? So I don't know, but I think that's part of whatever study about lights. I think if, it may make sense in other places, but I question that it would make actually worse.
Right.
There.
I think you're right.
And I think that's, DOT would weigh in on that. Sorry.
As you know, I suppose starting this committee, I was in full support. But I thought the purpose of this committee was really number one of phase 2. To really try to figure out what you could do about all the truck routes. Instead, based on private DOT, you have a proposal as your first idea, something that really doesn't do much for the city at large. It doesn't really, according to Don's research, help Columbia Street at all, because we know Columbia Street, the gravel trucks, which wouldn't be affected by this.
Actually, that's.
Hang on, wait.
But now you're saying,
No, that's just waiting.
Okay, now I was very confused,
No,
because on one hand,
just a moment, finish.
no, I'm gonna continue that point. On the one hand, not that many trucks that are going down Columbia, if we got rid of the truck route there. And then at the same time, it's very confusing, the data proposed about Columbia. So I guess I just think this committee has lost its way. Because it's not confronting the bigger issue which people really care about, and that's all the truck traffic.
I'm sorry.
Could I respond to that a little bit?
Sorry, so,
Could I respond to Tom? Tom, I don't think the truck committee essentially lost its way. I mean, yes, we are focused on a smaller issue that's affecting it, but as Margaret had said in previous meetings, this is one of the issues that this is just one way for us to affect change small step at a time. If we look at this big mountain, which is the Columbia Street issue, and we just and that's the only focus of the truck committee, then it may take years, which has taken years, right? But I think this one specific issue that we're trying to mitigate with removing the one truck route, it does solve some of the problem. It doesn't solve all of the problem, and we've all kind of conceded that point. But I don't think it's beyond the purview of the committee, in my opinion, at least.
thanks, Ronnie. I think Dolly, you had one quick comment.
So I'm going to be presenting high level results of the analysis I did from the FGA.
Okay, so you want to hold on?
Sure, yeah.
All right. Any other committee members? For the comment? Do you have any hands raised?
No.
Go ahead.
So Susan Meyer, 36 Worth Avenue. I, in some ways, am echoing what Tom is saying. I look at phase 2, which seems to be the complex, negotiating heavy issue that I thought the ad hoc committee was formed to pursue. And when I was listening to the first, the only meeting I could listen to because it was the only meeting on. But it seems that that was the focus of that meeting. And I hate to see this idea that first we, then in step 2, we pursue the really big thing that's going to take a lot of negotiation skills and a lot of reaching out and such. I would advocate for concurrently, perhaps pursuing these if you're planning to move forward or something allows you. And to me, that's the bigger deal. And then when I went through the minutes of the meeting minutes on the city website, I was alarmed to see that conversation be sort of abandoned to phase 1. And I really urge, I think phase 2 would be significantly better for a number of citizens in Hudson. I think phase 1 might do some mitigating of some things for some citizens in Hudson, while at the same time admittedly making things much worse for other citizens in Hudson.
So I want to respond to the concurrent.
Okay, but I have more to say.
Yeah,
Okay.
right, let me, I'll come back. So first of all, it hasn't been abandoned. We have had meetings with Fabric. We had one big meeting with Fabric and with people. I have met multiple times. Representatives of the Sheriff's Office and with Greenport. We continue to do that, and I'm continuing to work on that. I'm continuing to try to get missions underway with that. I'm trying to get a meeting with the mayor to discuss some initiatives around that very topic. So this is not, I think maybe the naming of this by phase is the wrong way to think about it. It's really more things that we can resolve in the short term versus things that are going to take longer. And one of the things that in our meeting with Greenport and Bavarack, they completely rejected out of hand adopting option 12. And so that is going to take getting support from beyond the municipality of Hudson. That's why I think having a lot of voices from the community saying this is a major issue for us will get us, I hope, some leverage with getting people beyond the city to engage and to try to address it. But you are absolutely correct that that is, you know, that it's like we are not discussing the garbage trucks. That's off the table for us. So our big issue here is the large trucks that are coming through Hudson without local deliveries. And that is, right, exactly. And some of it was created by the developments in Greenport, by the developments up at the top of Fairview, with that big shopping mall and so forth. So that some of it comes from that, but it goes beyond that. So you have more to say.
Yes, also in terms of the mitigation strategies, speed limit on Worth Avenue is absolutely not enforced. I rarely, very rarely in the 10 years I've been here, have I seen a police presence. Rarely have I seen anyone pull it over. People pull out on the street. Took again today in a pretty alarming way. And, you know, I've had visitors to my house who have looked like how they were ready to run. And I had to assure them, I know it feels like an earthquake, but it's the truck. So I think that if the 9 truck route is eliminated, the 9G truck route, sorry, is eliminated, Worth is going to get more trucks. And the idea that they all know, including all the cars that go up and down, where they know no one is gonna pull me over, so why do anything but stop kind of at the stop sign at Worth and Warren. So I really think that funds have to be assigned to this for the police department. A schedule has to be determined. It can't just be, oh, sure, we have an agreement with the police department that they'll try and do something about that. That's not going to work. Number 2 is stoplights. I agree that it could end up with a bunch of trucks idling in longer, and it could be a more toxic situation. But I do think it's worth a study. For me, I would say a stoplight at the top of the Warren and Worth, as opposed to that stoplight right in front of Union and Worth seems really tricky for the people.
You mean not the 3-way stop at Warren? By stop right, you mean traffic guard?
Actually, the stop at Warren and Worth is a 4-way stop sign. No one seems to know that. Or but it's a 4-way stop sign, and it's a disaster. I cross that road on a daily basis. Actually, like it's for no cars to work in the middle of Worth. So as to avoid the pedestrian crosswalk, because it's more dangerous. So all kinds of issues at Worth already, and to compound them is like mind-blowing to me. But I think some of the mitigating strategies need to be researched, and the speed limit is enormous. And whatever I work to make it accommodating to trucks.
Just saying, I 7 Green Street, and hopefully Linda's comment with some others after. Maybe the pavement can't be done to the level of heavy truck use, but I believe, and I see it from my house, They hit a crack, hit a pothole, and it shaped. Will it have to be done frequently? Maybe. Maybe the trucks will continue to do damage, but I can guarantee you that the section of Good Road from State Street to McKinn Street does not shake. It is beautiful pavement. We all had that. I believe it's shaking. It may fail, but, so to move on. I don't know that center lines would absolutely mitigate speed. So basically on the trucks following a lane. Our roads are plenty wide. If they're wide enough for trucks, they're wide enough for a line. 10-foot lane is all required. And there are plenty of roads with 10-foot lanes that have line. If a truck comes up Green Street and they go out in the middle of the lane and they floor it, they're not being held to any controls on their location, and it allows them to go faster. I think it's worth a try. I think it's a major US 9 route that all the way from the top of Worth Avenue out through Fairview should be beautiful pavement with lines in the middle and parking spots on each side, or wherever parking spots are clearly delineated. Paint. I firmly believe.
Sonia from Fort, I think this drive, I mean, right for is, and others may disagree, but I think close Columbia and there was no change to, and it was like, because I don't feel like it's everybody at the same time, but I think it's to the point that closing one doubles what happens on the other. And I think there's a risk that getting a victory closing one makes it less likely that phase 2 is successful, because it's like, well, you got to win, you got eliminated one truck route. I mean, I'm just saying that I think that's a very viable party from the other municipalities to go, you already got a victory, why should we be negotiating with you on another win for yourself, right? So I just like, you know, Columbia was cleared first and not, you know, there was no addition, and maybe that takes more time, but I think it's just the, like, knowing what it's already like and what it is like. That's like, we're all like.
So I'm looking at time.
Yeah.
So I do want to move on to the next. Thank you. I want to move on to the next. Is it a new topic?
Yes,
or- Okay, go
it's a
ahead.
new topic. It's just that there are so many things on this list, like the hospital, like the fact as stated that our police department doesn't seem to have the resources to monitor the trucks, like the houses shaking, like that our streets are not equipped to deal with this. There could be arguments like that we're thickly settled and getting more traffic from tourists and such that park on one of our truck routes. That could be arguments for go to phase 2 and you can do that.
DOT attended the multi-municipality meeting, which was also attended by the governor's office, by Calvert, by Greenport, and by Hudson. So, and DOT has been presented with plenty of arguments. They've been presented with data. They've been
With what?
presented- Excuse me?
They've been presented with what?
With plenty of arguments, data, analyses of why this is a problem, health issues, all of that. They have been presented with all of that. And the only way we will get any movement is if we get with people outside of the city of Hudson to step up and support us in doing something.
And I
But they,
urge
it's not.
that-
They have. So I really do want to move on.
I just have one question that I heard said several times that the Hudson Police Department doesn't have any means give traffic violations?
No, I don't believe so.
It's been repeated in here several times.
I don't, it's not my way to argue with people.
Right, but I just
I'm
want to
listening
point
to
out
what
that
you're saying,
they
but that's
don't
not
give
correct.
violations,
That's
Yes.
incorrect.
severe violations
They don't.
by trucks, speeding, sound violations,
Right.
hitting telephone poles, traffic accidents, etc. That's a big problem in a small town. Streets, I'm from a small town on the west coast, about the same size, and got lines down every street in the whole city. As
Okay.
well as a police department that's very aggressive about giving tickets to violators. Works.
So our next.
I just want to make one comment that I think, I know it's not permitted, but Columbia Street is the heart of the gravel traffic. And I know it's forbidden to talk about that, but the reality is that if you took some of the trucks off of Columbia, it would make a difference.
Oh, I'm sure, I agree.
So I'm
with that.
just,
I'm on.
I don't want to leave that out of the conversation. I mean,
Yeah.
All right, since you can't talk about it, let the public talk about it. The planning board is being forced to make decisions about the Hall Road. I implore you all to support it. It is the biggest thing that will help with our trust in the city. The environmental concerns are making that I go to the meeting, I implore you to urge the planning board to say yes.
We to discuss the whole road. No, that's fine. You know, I think it's very important for people. Meetings and
And I'm happy to discuss that.
encourage people to attend the planning board meetings, contact the planning board, express concerns or your opinion, whatever your view is on the subject. We were specifically told that that was not a topic, and right now there's just been a judgment relating to the whole road and the planning board. So now it is now a topic that the planning board has to address. So absolutely attend, expressions, I would encourage it.
Usually we have to leave,
Okay,
but I have to say that I'm really happy that there are more people at the meetings than there used to be.
thanks.
Thanks.
Okay. Go ahead. Assessment of impact.
Okay, so, yes. So, given the committee's consideration about possibly removing one of the truck routes, i.e. 9G/23B into Hudson, MJ Engineering Truck Study to determine if they've done analysis about what the impact of that would be, and indeed they did. So I put together a document presenting that analysis. 3 pages of the document have actual tables directly from MJ Engineering report, and the page numbers are referenced on where they were located.
I'm going to interrupt you for a moment.
Yeah.
So what I would like everybody to do is to listen to what Donna has to present. We will have a brief period. It's now 7 o'clock. We will have a brief period. You have questions or you're looking for more information. That's fine, but let's have the presentation first before we take any comments or questions. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to keep this brief, just given our time constraints. So I indicated the last 3 pages of this document have actual tables from the report of the data that MJ Engineering assessed. Page 1 are tables that I created with bottom line number impacts of reducing 9G/23B from the truck route into Hudson. What the impact would be on Route 9, Worth Ave, and also possibly 9H, because some trucks may bypass Route 9 and continue on to 9H. We don't know how many, but that could happen. Also on, I also analyzed what is the impact on Columbia Street of trucks entering Hudson through 9 and from other locations in the city, but exiting from 9G23B, okay? That's something I didn't get to present at the Common Council meeting. Page 3. So I'm going to go to page 3, the overall conclusions of what I found based on the MJ engineering. So diverting, eliminating 3B from the state truck route. Number one, it would divert approximately the estimated daily average trucks entering 9G23B, 26 weekday trucks, 22 small or 2 or 3 axle and large or 4 or more axle. Truck average impact would be a reduction in that area or a diversion of 10 trucks, 9 large. Okay. Now, reducing daily average truck volumes on Columbia Street above 3rd, estimated total impact 98 weekday trucks. So basically almost 100 trucks a day, 77 small, 21 large. And on the weekend, 24 daily average trucks, 20 small, 4 large. So removing, bottom line, removing 9G23B will have some impact of diverting trucks to other routes, that being 9 Worth Ave and or 9H. It will have a more significant impact on reducing truck traffic on Columbia above 30. Almost 100 trucks a day weekdays and 24 trucks a day on weekends. And most of those trucks are well, and on Columbia Street, 77 would be small, 21 large on the weekdays, and on weekends, 20 small, 4 large. That's because based on the data that MJ Engineering gathered in their study, they found that trucks entering Hudson from 9G23B, the majority of them were small trucks, believe it or not. The majority of trucks coming into Hudson on 9 Worth Ave, the majority of them are large trucks, unfortunately. So again, so the bottom line, the version of 9G23B will route some trucks to either 9 or 9H, and the majority of them will be small trucks. So I'm happy to.
This doesn't make sense.
Sorry, just a moment, just a moment. Tom, I asked.
I know you asked.
I asked, so we first have a presentation and then we can ask questions. And we're going to follow in order. Donna, are you finished?
Yeah, I mean, that's a bottom line impact.
All right, so now we're going to.
Don't behave that way. Our meetings is too.
Yeah.
I have a question.
So just a moment, I think Tom, you have,
That was just a little bit to realize.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
That's all right. You move on.
I didn't understand. So, number one, so this is data that you're putting together based on the truck route.
It's data I got from
From
the
the truck route
engineering
study,
truck
yeah.
study.
Right.
About the impacts of eliminating 9G23B in Hudson.
But that study didn't specifically look at 9G away, what would happen tonight, correct?
I think,
No,
I think we have to look at are the tables that are.
Yes, I
in
looked at it,
investigation.
I looked at it, but it didn't, that study didn't come to. Yes, well, they did have something about it would impact work.
They didn't have verbatim conclusion
Right,
statements
right.
that will reduce.
And are yours, you consider yours to be verbatim conclusions?
No, I'm just presenting my analysis
Okay.
of the data that's in MJ Engineering Truck Study Report. And I can point out to you in the table how I derived that. data.
Right, I looked at it earlier, what I'm wondering is, one, the big trucks that you mentioned stop being on Columbia if 9G is closed, won't they then be on Worth? Like they're not gonna
No,
miss.
no, these are trucks entering from other locations, from Worth and from Columbia and the different, from Worth, from 23B, from New York 66, from 9 Fairview Ave and Columbia Street. Those locations, trucks coming in those locations that exiting 9G 23B out of Hudson, that's the approximate 100 trucks a day that will be eliminated.
And then, okay, so then there was concerns, like in the minutes, someone raised concerns about the fact that the truck study had been done during COVID. And that's the numbers. I'm just worried that should DOT say, okay, do a study, I'm concerned that the committee might say, well, we've put together this data from this $100,000 study. Can we use this instead?
So we did actually research the impact on it, was then as a broad.
Yeah.
We did actually do research, and I think we can get that document circulated. It should be out on the city website. We researched the impact of COVID. Actually, it's higher, not lower during COVID, as far as I recall. But we did actually look at national top data on, because people were ordering things.
You know, I saw something on, and it didn't sound conclusively like it was higher.
But I don't want to get into a big long discussion here. Do you have questions about the presentation? Okay, do we have any questions from the committee? Ronnie, Juan?
I guess my question is, we're not gonna attempt to use this data if DOT says, okay, make a study to find out how Worth will be impacted. My hope is, and my question is, the committee won't say, no, we already have that information here. That's what I'm worried about, and I'd like assurances from the committee that that's not what they'll do.
This analysis was conducted based upon questions and discussion that occurred, I think, 2 or 3 months ago at a committee meeting. And so we went back to the engineering study with the origin and destination data to see what we could pull out of there to understand what the potential impact might be. That was the purpose of this. It's a meta-analysis of data that was already in the engineering study. This, I very much doubt that DOT would be saying, okay, this is an acceptable.
But you would present it to DOT to
This
see
was
if
done
they
for
were.
internal purposes to answer questions that were raised in committee.
Okay, so this is for internal purposes. only.
Yes. So, Ronnie, do you want? Are there any other?
No.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Anything else? Yeah, go ahead.
I just wondered if there's a analysis in that, in the studies of local versus through traffic.
That's, yeah, that is what this is.
That is, okay.
It's
So it
like,
actually
if you
breaks
look-
that down.
If you look, it's very difficult to, it's not very well presented in, verbally. Or abstracted from the engineering study, and they have origin and destination data. And so essentially, has origin and enters and leaves from the same location, right? Something comes in and then exiting in a different location may still have a local delivery. But let's say you come in and there are 6 different data points where they collected the truck information. If you come in at this point and you enter and exit at a different point, that's considered to be probably a through truck, but they may have made it over. But the assumption is that if you come and go from the same location, then you're local, right?
So it's coming to Colarusso and going to the dock. For
Well,
instance.
that's a different one because they are doing technically a local delivery in Hudson because the dock is in Hudson.
Because the dock is what?
The dock is in Hudson.
Yeah.
So Colarusso going down dock is making a local delivery. And you actually come and go the same route. So that's how it would show up. Yeah, but I recommend, I don't have access to this study, I believe it's out on our city website, you can find it. If you go to the section, and it's towards the end of it, there's a whole section on origin and destination, where they present that.
And there's one statement in the study, it's not captured in the table, but the study observed that overall 61% of captured trucks recorded as entering the city had intermediate stops. The city had intermediate stops, meaning their local deliveries.
I asked Rob Perry why we don't have center lines on some streets. And here's the answer I just got. Because the center line isn't the actual travel lanes on most streets, and many shift with alternate side parking. Currently, we pay contractor to strike where travel lanes on roads are consistently offset, like Worth, or where the roads are so wide, oncoming traffic would have difficulties identifying the travel lane. Upper Union, Harry Howard, Glenwood between Sixth and Parkwood. There's the answer.
About local delivery trucks. Do they normally go, like, do they normally go on truck routes? Or can they go on any street within Hudson?
Well, if you're delivering something on Union Street, you have to go on Union Street.
Of course,
There's no way to deliver.
but until they need to get to Union Street. are
And
they
that's the
not-
memorandum that the gentleman was referencing, yeah, that you were referencing. You-
Okay.
That designated where they were supposed to be going, but yes, obviously you have to go to where you're going.
Let me just, so let's say I have a delivery on Union, but as a trucker, I'm meant to stay on the truck route until I can. The 9G truck route is eliminated. There will be more local truck traffic on.
No, because it has nothing to do with local traffic. It would not be eliminated, it is only through traffic.
But
It's not eliminated for
The
local,
local would continue to come in 9G 23B.
but it would not be eliminated for local deliveries. That's the whole point.
yes, no, I hear that, but until they get to that particular street. Are they meant to stay on a truck route until, you know what I mean? Because you could go down Worth and get to Union, and you could go down 9G and get to Union.
If you're coming up from the river and you have a delivery in Union, you would come up 9G and connect to Third and turn right on Union, turn back to Union.
Or would you, because now at a truck route, instead your GPS calls only Worth Avenue a truck route, would you be more likely to do that?
I have no idea. I can't.
Margaret, I think we need to move on because I think this resident's concern is that all the trucks going to suddenly be in front of her house. And she's finding out all these potential ways that that's going to happen. We'll keep discussing how this will not change local truck traffic, and she's figuring out things in the sky. So I think we need to move on to the next point.
So actually, at this point, nothing else on the agenda. Tom, did you have a question?
No, just a
Okay.
little shock.
That is our last agenda item, so I'm gonna ask for a motion to adjourn. You ready? Yeah. Thank you. Second? Yes,
Yes.
Ronnie also second, so we're adjourned. And thank you all for coming. Please continue to participate. Keep informed